What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDoc.com, and after 16 months, 16 long months, that's like an eternity in the wireless world, the iPhone is finally here. iPhone 4S, the successor to the popular iPhone 4, is in the house, and it's available in several flavors, 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes in black or in white for $199, $299, and $399 respectively. Now this one's a little bit different because it's available on AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint this time around, so you can get your fix on any of the three, the top three at least, of the four nationwide carriers. Now this goes up against some pretty hot competition right now. A lot of cool Android phones coming out, the Droid Razr rumored to be coming out soon, and many, many more. Is this thing going to hold a candle to the latest Android devices, or should you hold off and get something else? We'll find out in the full review of the iPhone 4S. But first, special thanks to my boys at Best Buy Mobile, because they hook us up with all kinds of cool phones just like the iPhone 4S for use in our One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. When you get your iPhone, they'll help you set up your email, your web, your apps, all that stuff, your app store, and more. So when you walk out the door, you're working, you don't have to worry about setting anything up at Best Buy Mobile. Now let's get into it. iPhone 4S, full review. Is this the phone to get, or should you hold off for the iPhone 5 or something else? We'll find out starting right now. Call it whatever you want to call it. Say the S stands for Sprint, the S stands for Speed, maybe even the S stands for the late Steve Jobs. But the iPhone 4S is an improvement over the original 4. Now you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, there aren't really any case designs, and you're right, there aren't. I mean, the biggest thing you'll notice if you're really a die-hard iPhone person, you know historically what they look like. You're going to notice a couple of things. One, there's a SIM card slot on all the models now, not just the GSM model, but on the CDMA ones with Verizon and Sprint as well, because it is a global roaming capable device. Now all the other improvements are going to be under the hood, with the exception of the antenna. You'll notice that it picks up, this one is a CDMA device, but even the AT&T one holds the CDMA antenna now. They've improved the antenna. Remember Antenna Gate when the iPhone 4 first came out? They've improved that, made it better, and the antenna is revamped on the iPhone 4S. Otherwise, specs have been boosted, and it's kind of funny to see Sprint up there, isn't it? But Sprint is one of the new carriers, or is the new carrier for the iPhone 4S. It's available at AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint. It's available in three models: 16 gigabyte for $199, 32 gigabytes for $299, 64 gigabytes for $399 on contract, and off contract I believe it's $679, $770, no, I'm sorry, $649, $749, $849 respectively. It's available in black and white, and it's available on those three carriers, but otherwise, it looks almost exactly identical to the old 4. So I think people were looking for a design change when they went from the 4 to the 4S. They didn't get that, but you do get some awesome improvements under the hood. It has an Apple A5 dual-core processor, which is clocked somewhere around 800 megahertz. So even though it's 800 megahertz, you don't really see a substantial speed difference in day-to-day things like moving the menu around or pulling down the notifications bar, doing things like that. But you do notice it, at least for me, I notice it in little things like the camera, or when I'm doing something that's just a little bit more system intensive than, spinning between the menus or opening an app, something like that. I do see it a little bit. But anyway, improved processor, 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording. So an improvement from the 5 megapixel one on the 4. It ships with iOS 5 out of the box, and you're going to see these iOS 5 things that we covered some time ago. The notifications bar, the new notifications, which I don't have any on here at the moment, but new notifications that pop up subtly below the clock. And a lot of people are saying, hey, that's kind of like Android. Well, it kind of is in terms of the notifications. That's something they perhaps pulled from the Android platform. They learned from the Android platform, kind of modified it and did it in the Apple way. But that's there as well. But iOS 5, that's one of the many things. And then it has Siri as well, which is a personal voice assistant that they showed off at the Apple event on October 4th. So you can say things like, what's the weather like? And you can see that it brings up the weather. So really cool, really advanced personal assistant, which is a nice touch. Now, again, they've been having some issues with Siri since launch weekend was this weekend. Siri's been kind of intermittent, and service issues have been taking it in and out. But otherwise been pretty fantastic. Now this is, again, not a huge change. You're going to see iOS 5. There's some minor improvements, but otherwise pretty similar. I'm going to jump into, some of the features of this device just to give you kind of a recap, because we covered so many Android phones. It's kind of weird to be covering an iOS device. But first of all, you're going to see this is the Sprint version, again, available on AT&T and Verizon. Let's take a look at text messaging, for example, and you can see not a whole lot's changed here. 3.5-inch Retina display on this device as well, and you can use the keyboard, of course, in portrait or in landscape mode. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on your personal preferences, but 3.5 inches may be a little bit too small for you. It may not be too small. It's up to you. But one thing I will say is the on-screen keyboard on iOS is one of the best out there. So we can say something like the Quick Brown Fox. Let's see, Quick Brown Fox is ready for the weekend. It's only Monday, Quick Brown Fox. Man, that's lazy, lazy, lazy. Quick Brown Fox is ready for the weekend. So very quick, very easy to type on. And again, for those people that have issues typing in portrait, or perhaps you're coming from a device with a physical keyboard, you're trying to learn the touchscreen input and how it works, you can always use it in landscape mode. And even though it is a smaller display, you can see the keys are slightly larger in landscape mode. But again, no changes here. You can see what it looks like when we go into this auto message from Sprint, for example. You can see it's in the typical bubble format. You get the option to call, to FaceTime, and to add contacts. Now, it does have the front-facing camera still for FaceTime. You can do that. You have to do it over Wi-Fi. But they've created quite an ecosystem around it where you can do it. Macs have FaceTime, iPod Touches have FaceTime, or the iTouch, as I like to call it, has FaceTime, and the iPhone 4 and 4S have it as well. So it's nice to have that out of the box. But then let's take a look at the web browser, because it is something that's pretty interesting. We're going to go in here, and I don't know what I was looking at The West Wing last night, trying to remember favorite show in the world, and I was trying to remember some of the characters, their actual titles from. I couldn't remember if Josh Lyman was Deputy Director of Communication. Anyway, pointless. Anyway, we're going to go to phonedog.com and wait for that to load up. Data speeds seem to be working relatively well. I've had some kind of hit or miss data speeds with Sprint, and this is obviously a Sprint thing. It's not it's isolated to Sprint, not necessarily to AT&T or Verizon. But I've had some issues with data in the Charlotte area, and in with Sprint, several of the other metro areas I've been recently. But you can see, pinch to zoom is just absolutely fantastic. This is one of those areas where you do see the dual core processor at work. You might get a little bit of lag here when you were, I don't want to make you sick by doing that, but a little bit of lag here or there when you did that on the iPhone 4, particularly with iOS 5, since it was kind of a more system heavy OS as opposed to iOS 4. You don't get it here. You really see it's a smooth performance, quick and easy transitions, and that's one thing I have to give iOS credit for. This is something that Android, I'm sorry to say it, Android fanboys are going to hate me, but this is one place where Android hasn't caught up yet. iOS is far more consistent in terms of performance than Android. Hopefully that can be rectified in the ice cream sandwich update, at least make it a little bit more consistent. When I like to open up an application, I like it to take 1 second or 2 seconds or however many seconds, but I like it to be consistent each and every time. And iOS provides a very consistent experience across the board. So you're getting, you know what you're getting every single time for the most part. So you can see that here, and no real changes down here, back and forward in the browser. You can click here and add the bookmark. You can add it to reading list, which is a new feature in iOS 5. Add it to home screen, tweet or print, and there's a built-in Twitter for iOS. It's kind of built into the device where you can tweet things directly from the actual menu versus having to go into Twitter and doing it yourself. So you can go here and say tweet, and I can tweet it, and it automatically opens up kind of a Twitter prompt, and I can tweet. And I'll show you that in just a second, but we'll go in here and take a look at this as well. And you can see this is where you open a new page if you wanted to open a second window, and then you can always flip back and forth between PhoneDog and then the new page as well. So quick and easy, and very impressive on that front. Again, no real changes though. It's coming, coming from the 4, you're not going to see any substantial improvements. But I do notice, again, after using the 4 for some time, both in demos and on my personal line from time to time when I'm not using an Android phone, I do notice a speed difference between the two devices. So that's that. But I want to show you the Twitter integration. And on this review, I'm kind of totally jumping around between certain things. But I do want to show you the Twitter integration. So we're going to go into Photos, and I'm going to take a picture. Actually, I'll show you this picture that I took here of my cat, for example. And I can go in here and I can say tweet it. And when I hit tweet, it's going to bring up a little tweet box like this. I can type in whatever and then hit send. And I can add the location if I want to. And once I hit send, it automatically updates it to Twitter. So I don't have to back all the way out like I used to. Scroll over to Twitter, click Twitter, add a picture, add my tweet, and then hit send. It's much easier, and it kind of reduces the number of clicks to get to it. Another feature you'll see, and again, just jumping around as I think of things here, the notifications bar offers 2 improvements right here. You have the weather, and then you have your stock ticker as well. So I can see local weather, and it updates based on GPS wherever I am. So I can set it to local weather if I want to, and when I click on it, you're going to see Charlotte here. And of course, all my other weather options are still here, London and New York, particularly because I'm going to be in London. Actually, by the time this films, I think I'll be in London today, because I think I'm going to put this on the YouTube channel on Tuesday, but it's Monday right now. So New York for that, London for next week for Nokia World, and then of course local weather, which updates to wherever I'm at. But again, quick and easy up there. And then you have your stock ticker as well. Now, you can come into settings, and you're going to see some changes here. You're going to see notifications, and you'll click on that. And you can sort apps manually or by time, but you can see the weather widget option is here, and it just says, do you want it in the notification center, yes or no? And then you'll see a bunch of different options here. My phone, my messages, my reminders, calendars, Game Center, New York Times, which is something I downloaded to read in the newsstand, and then stock widget. And you can see you have a lot of different, in the mail if you want it, but you can see you have a lot of different options to display in the notifications bar. And let's say, for example, we go into messages. Here's what they're going to look like when they pop up. And unfortunately, I don't have one to send a test text right now. But let's say we were surfing around. Remember on iOS 4, we'd be surfing, doing something. Somebody'd send you a text message and it would appear in a big blue box and just blare in front of you and interrupt everything you were doing. Well, it doesn't do that anymore unless you want it to. If you want it to, you can click alerts. If you don't want any alerts, you can click none. But what I like is this thing called banners, where whenever you're texting or you're on the internet or doing something, a little banner pops up top and it kind of spins down and it doesn't take up much space up top. And it says from John Doe and it says text message, or it says kind of a preview of your text. When you click on it, it takes you to that text message, and it's just a much cleaner, easier solution as opposed to that big blue box that was there before. But anyway, badge app icon just means it appears in the notifications bar with a little message icon beside it. Show preview, I turn that off because I don't like people to see my text messages, but you can leave it on. Repeat alert, view and lock screen. So some of these things aren't really a change from iOS 4 per se, but they're just listed in the notifications area as opposed to where they were listed before in the messages area. So something to keep in mind. Now, reminders are pretty cool, and this is something, one of those things I didn't think I was going to use at all, and it turns out I do use it quite a bit. Reminders, and not on this device because this is a demo unit that I ended up purchasing. But anyway, reminders, I can come in here and say date, and I can group my reminders by completed if I want to, but I can come in here and add a reminder, post, actually let's do this, update or upload iPhone 4S review to the site. How about that? And then that's done. So we're done with our reminder. It's there. Once I update it, all I have to do is check done. And another cool thing, if you have 2 or 3 iPhones, or you have an iPhone and an iPad that are running iOS 5, you can use iCloud to synchronize. And it's kind of funny because I have this one, then I have a Verizon iPhone 4S as well that I'm working with right now. And it's funny because I'd totally forgotten about iCloud. And when you update like this, it'll auto-update to the Verizon one unless you turn it off, and vice versa. It'll auto-update from Verizon to Sprint or iPad, any iOS 5 device that you have. So that's a pretty cool thing. If you and your wife want to share reminders, you and your girlfriend, or you have your iPad and you want to synchronize information, that's pretty cool.